Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive online training program on media literacy. You are watching us live on PME Vidya channels 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. It's our 5-day, 5-hour online training program and today we are in day 1 of the training session. This training program is brought to you by Central Institute of Educational Technology, that is CIET NCERT, in collaboration with Indian Institute of Mass Communication, that is IIMC. And as I've told you that we are starting this journey from today, and on day 1 we will be talking about media and entertainment landscape and need for media and information literacy. If you have questions regarding today's topic, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can take down our phone number, which is 8800440559. Our email ID is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in, and on our YouTube handle NCERT Official, you can send us your questions, suggestions and of course your feedback. Now, since it's a training program, there is going to be an assessment on the last day of the training session, that's on day 5. So, for more details on the same, you can log on to CIET's website. I request you all to kindly go through the guidelines, watch all the sessions very carefully, and if you score more than 70% in that assessment, you will be granted a certificate that you can download from Diksha portal. For all these guidelines and instructions, please make sure that you either scan the QR code that's given on the page or you click on the link. Now, for this session, we are joined by our experts. So, please welcome Dr. Namit Vikram Singh. He is Assistant Professor from Indian Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. Sir, namaskar and very warm welcome to the session.
Hello.
And very first question that I would like to ask you today, since we are going to commence this journey from today on media literacy and we are taking a very important topic, I want to understand from you, sir, in brief, what is the relevance of today's topic and what all are the main points that you'll be covering in the session?
Yeah, thank you so much and a very good evening to everyone. Today we will be discussing on the media and entertainment landscape and the need for media and information literacy in this regard. The topics that I will be exploring during the course of this presentation will be briefly explaining about the media and entertainment industry in the case of India, insights about the Indian creator economy, the new phenomena of the OTT, that is the rise of OTT in India, the emerging trend of algorithmic entertainment, AI and its role in the creative economy, the shift from globalization to localization in the field of media and entertainment, and lastly, how media and entertainment is used as a means of soft power and digital diplomacy, and where exactly do we need the whole dynamics of media and information literacy. So, without any further ado, I'll begin with the very first topic, which is a brief idea about the media and entertainment industry across the globe. So, post globalization, one may find that media and entertainment have played a very important role in the larger creative economy. And in addition to that, what we also find is the fact that media and entertainment are also being used as a means of soft power. Soft power is basically the opposite of what you find as military or hard power, where cultural influence is being exercised in a passive manner for socio-cultural conditioning of certain or the larger communities across different countries or across different social systems. And the relevance of media and entertainment in terms of soft power is the fact that it is gradually shaping and reshaping the cultural needs and requirements of the people. Now, if you look at the figure very carefully, you will see that India, across the globe, there has been a very healthy growth in the media and entertainment industry, generating a total revenue of $2,671 billion. And that is expected to rise to 2,871. And with the existing compound annual growth rate, there is an expected figure of $3,825 billion, which the media and entertainment industry is going to provide to any growing economy across the globe. Media and entertainment includes your formats such as films, music, social media platforms, video content, animation, advertisements, video games, and AR and VR, which are becoming very popular, and at the same time e-books and other related formats. The other fundamental reason why media and entertainment is witnessing a rising growth media and entertainment is witnessing a rising growth across different economies is because of the manner in which mobile media and the level of interactivity and personalization has taken shape. What I mean to say over here is that with the boom in the mobile media market and the manner in which information can be provided in a more personalized style, or rather in a format, it is allowing people to choose and decide what type of information they want to consume at that point of time. So this is a big phenomenal change which has been seen in the domain of the media and entertainment industry. If we look at the case of Indian media and entertainment landscape, firstly I would like to point out is the fact that India lies in the top 7 countries in the field of media and entertainment. Comparatively, it's not holding a very dominant position, but with the kind of demand, informational demand that has been seen in the case of India with respect to entertainment based content or with respect to edutainment based content, the researchers are basically indicating the fact that there is going to be a massive rise in the demand or the market growth in the field of media and entertainment. If you look at the figure at the bottom, the pie chart, it provides a very interesting observation with respect to media and entertainment landscape, especially in the case of India. Earlier, television was basically a dominant format in terms of providing the necessary media content to the concerned population. But with the growth in the mobile market, with the data packages becoming more cost effective and competitive in nature, we see that digital media has basically taken precedence over other formats in terms of content based satisfaction. So digital media has a higher share of 32% out of the total revenue. Television is around 27%, print is close to 11%, which is still a healthy figure because that indicates the fact that in India there is still a steady rise in the literacy, so people will be exploring different types of information formats for their respective satisfaction, information satisfaction. Gaming, which is 9%, is expected to reach or provide a massive boom because the gaming economy is very dynamic in the case of India, because India has a greater share of the population which falls under the category of demographic dividend. So gaming industry in the coming years will bring about a phenomenal change in the media and entertainment landscape. Followed by that, VFX is close to 5%, live events are close to 4%, and other related engagements are close to 2%. Now, if you look at the creator economy in the case of India, firstly, I just want to clarify that creator economy is basically a digital ecosystem where individuals are basically not just playing the role of consumers of information, but also producers of information. So what they are basically doing is utilizing platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, any other social media platform that can engage with the higher social network in terms of generating content which is required by the users and generating some form of income through that very content. So this may also include aspects such as personal branding, community engagement, and at the same time the very primary task of creating content, right? Now, an interesting thing to observe in the case of the creator economy in India is the fact that tier 1 cities are providing the maximum possible contribution in terms of the content. How do I say so? Is that if you look at the bottom left picture, which talks about what creators earn in India, you will find that a greater share of the creators which are residing in tier 1 cities are basically able to provide themselves a higher revenue generation. Now, that can very much indicate to the fact that the creators residing in these locations have been able to identify the aspects or trends that can allow them to monetize the content. Now, this is where what we find that there is a kind of an information gap which exists between basically an urban and rural geographies, where rural is trying to still experiment with the best possible combinations in terms of content creation. However, in terms of monetization of that very content, you will see that there is a greater concentration towards the urban establishments. But overall, if you may look at, the Indian creator economy is projecting a very, very healthy figure, because it's expected to provide a net growth of $1 trillion by 2030. And currently, what the market researchers are basically predicting is the fact that the estimated level is going to reach beyond 20 to 25 billion to 100 and 125 billion by the end of the decade. So these are some of the very, very important aspects that can be seen and observed in the case of the Indian creator economy. The other interesting thing to highlight over here is the creator life cycle. Since, as I pointed out before, in India, people have not reached that state of saturation where they have identified that this is the best possible information combination for them for some kind of satisfaction. They are experimenting with different kind of information or rather data sets or any kind of network which can provide them with something unique or interesting as an information value. So in the case of the creator life cycle, what you will see is that there is a gradual shift from the attention economy to the economy of trust, translating into the economy of commerce and exchange, and gradually translating into the economy of ownership, where the creators are actually owners of prime content which is accessible to a larger chunk of the population. Now, for that stage to be reached, there is a dire need and dire introspection required in the phase of trust and commerce, because Indian consumers, especially the young population, is experimenting with humongous amount of data on the digital networks. They are not very well, they are not very trusting towards the information source unless and until they get a repetition of the same kind of content from a variety of sources. So trust building takes time, as a result of which you will find that in the case of India, a larger chunk of the creator, the content creators in India, they are basically under the category of micro creators or nano creators. Now, what do I mean by micro and nano creators is the fact that if you look at this infographic on the right, you will find that a greater chunk of the Indian content creators have an average following from 1000 to 10,000 followers. In order for the creator economy to reach an ideal stage in the case of India, there is a dire need for the creators to shift from the existing state of nano or micro creators to macro creators, where there are more than 500k followers for the respective individual or a group. Now, this process is gradual because of the fact that the users or subscribers of different information sources are experimenting with different combinations of content for some degree of satisfaction. So in the coming time, what you will find is the fact that creator economy will be indicating a massive jump in terms of revenue generation, but that revenue generation will have to be kind of complemented by creating an ideal situation or an ideal state where the trust building can be further encouraged, so that content can further translate or can be identified in terms of how well it can be monetized. The other interesting thing to note in terms of the creator economy is that a larger chunk of the population relies on the genre of comedy for information satisfaction. And there is a psychological reason behind it. It's because of the fact that in digital media, there is a limitless access to different kind of information and data sets. So when a user is consuming different varieties of information, there can be a possibility that the user might reach a state of overload within a brief period of time. Now, how can that point of saturation be extended or prolonged for a good number of days, months, years, whatever may be the requirement for the content creator, as a result of which you may find that comedy has been used quite extensively by the content creators in even communicating complex subject matters in a way more simplified way. The other interesting thing to note in the case of the creator economy is that it is very much youth centric. Now, why do I say that it is youth centric? Is because of the fact that 18 to 25 years and 26 to 35 years of the total population are the ones who are contributing extensively in the creator economy, or rather they are the ones who are exploring how digital technologies can be better utilized in terms of generating revenue and also providing ideal content to the subscribers or users across the globe. Now, this also indicates two key observations. The other observation is that the older generation, that is, or the middle age group between 45 and plus, they may have a kind of digital, they may face a situation of digital handicap where they may not be able to utilize the platforms with that kind of finesse and expertise in comparison to the younger population. That is one observation. The other observation that can be is that there is a cultural incompatibility. Now, what do I mean to say by highlighting this point is the fact that there may be certain cultural cues which are more compatible with the current generation or the young generation, which the older generation may not fail to identify properly or may not be able to kind of translate it according to their own cultural and social expectations. So, as a result of which, you may see that the contribution of content by a certain stratum of population between the age group of 45 and plus years is somewhat limited. The other important thing to highlight over here is that apart from international platforms such as Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you have Indian social media platforms such as Moj and Josh, which are also very popular in terms of the creator economy, how content creators are utilizing these platforms in terms of generating diverse sorts of content. The next aspect that we are going to look at is the OTT, or rather the rise of OTT in the case of India. Now, before I jump on to the figures or the statistical facts, I would like to draw your attention upon how this trend actually took shape. Now, if you go back and try to recall the time period of 2015 to 2016, that was the time when OTT was kind of gradually exploring its place in the larger digital market, right? And 2019 was a very revolutionary time period because Reliance Jio entered the market and it brought about access to competitive or cost-effective high-speed data packages which were being provided to a diverse set of population. Now, this strategy was effective because it opened up the whole ecosystem of OTT for a diverse set of population across India. Earlier, the OTT was basically seen to be confined to a specific stratum of the larger population. But as mobile technology, the data services became cost effective or rather cheap in nature, it became way more plural and inclusive in terms of accessibility. 2020 to 2021 and also 2022 were important time periods to understand the relevance of OTT in India, because global pandemic created the need for media based content. So two key theories basically of media came into play. One was the gratification and the other was media dependence theory. Gratification in the sense that there was isolation because of the lockdown. People had limited set of engagements or activities to basically follow up, and as a result of which they needed some kind of information that could provide them with the necessary gratification. The dependence factor happened as the problem or the social problem of isolation aggressively grew due to the lockdown that happened during 2020 to 2021. 22 onwards to 25, currently what we see is that these OTT platforms are now exploring different other opportunities in the domain of health, education, even gaming and sports. And they are also kind of introducing newer platforms that can provide a diverse set of localized content to the population. Now, if you compare all these time periods together and try to see the whole puzzle from a larger picture, you will find that there is also a kind of platform convergence which has also happened. Now, what do I mean by platform convergence is that certain OTT platforms, be it Hoichoi, Discovery Plus, etc., are creating their own independent space in the digital media landscape. But at the same time, they are also collaborating with the larger OTT platforms such as Amazon, Jio Hotstar in terms of content delivery. One reason that can be is because of the fact that Jio Hotstar and Amazon Prime are the most dominating OTT platforms that can be observed in the case of India. The second aspect is that the kind of technological engagement, or rather the interactivity which these platforms are trying to provide, it's quite phenomenal. It's interactive, it's instantaneous, and it provides variety of filters which can personalize the information, which these small to medium OTT platforms may have a challenge. So, I mean, you will not be surprised of the fact that if you consume the same content of a given OTT on Amazon Prime and you feel a lot more satisfied than consuming it on its own original digital space, there will be a kind of a difference or a variation because of the technical glitches or the complications which the bigger platforms are able to overcome. Now, in this whole competition of OTT, the other observation that you will find is, both from the short run and from the long term period, is the fact that in the short run it is basically providing higher levels of satisfaction to the users on the grounds of exclusive information. So there is an access to heterogeneous information, or rather exclusive content, which is distributed across different platforms. But if you try to compare it from a long term time period, you will find that all these content are gradually converging at a given point, whereby there is larger scope for similar content which is being made accessible to the users. Now, this may create a complexity because after a point of time, users may tend to feel that what is so new or unique that is being provided by the given OTT. So this is a kind of a challenge that might emerge in the case of the OTT landscape if they are not exploring alternative venues in terms of creating unique or rather value rich content which can basically involve a larger chunk of the population, right? future from the perspective of how the OTT market is going to perform in the future, it is very promising. It's very promising because of the fact that it is doing a lot of permutation and combination in identifying what is the best possible content package that it can provide to its users for the maximum possible satisfaction. For instance, Netflix is providing access to games. Jio Hotstar is providing access to live sports events. Similarly, other platforms are also exploring their domains of health and fitness, and all these things are going to witness a surge in the coming time. Gaming, especially as cloud computing becomes way more aggressive and stabilized, you will see that gaming is going to bring about a phenomenal change in the Indian media landscape, because there is a greater chunk of the larger population which is involved in gaming, not purely as consumers of gaming content, but also as producers of gaming content, keeping in mind in terms of how the gaming technologies are evolving over time. But at the same time, there are certain problem areas too which the OTT needs to basically take care of or be sensitive towards. One is the whole dilemma of subscription fatigue. This is basically a situation where a subscriber is unable to decide how much money he or she has to pay for what type of content, and they keep on subscribing to n number of platforms, and they ultimately are in a state of dilemma. That is one fundamental problem. The other fundamental problem is that over a period of time, more or less, the OTT platforms are providing similar such types of content which can reduce the levels of satisfaction of the given subscribers. The other interesting thing to note, which is been highlighted in the graph that is on the top left corner, is the fact that the additional rental charges or the advertisements which are being provided on OTT platforms is also creating a kind of friction among the users in terms of whether they should subscribe to a given platform or whether they should kind of move on to the next best alternative. Lastly, a concern needs to also be drawn upon in terms of the kind of adult content that is available on OTT and how it can be kind of controlled with respect to children accessing it very easily. So although this has not been a major social dilemma at the moment, but if the OTT platforms are not paying the right attention in terms of regulating its content in a right way, this may turn up to be a social problem in the time to come. In the case of the algorithmic entertainment, one interesting observation that I would like to share over here is the emergence of algorithmic vernacularism. Now, this is a very interesting phenomenon because earlier, when algorithms were not being used that extensively, reproduction into different formats in different languages was becoming a problem, right? Now, through algorithmic vernacularism, the creators of content can ideally decide which type of language they can choose or select that can provide them with the best possible traffic, and that figure or that information can be effectively used to cater to the population residing in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So as you see, in terms of how the content is basically being decided in terms of to whom it has to be shared, when it has to be shared, how it has to be shared, all of these things are basically algorithmic driven. So for instance, you have engagement related algorithms, you have interest related algorithms, recommendation related algorithms, and relevance related algorithms, which are not only providing the best possible packages to the users in terms of selecting the content, but it is also playing an active role in gatekeeping what type of content should be consumed and what type of content should be omitted out from the consumption process. So as a result of which, you will see that algorithms will have a way more dynamic engagement in the time to come, because a greater chunk of the OTT content is being consumed through smartphone devices. Close to 90% of the users are consuming OTT content through their mobile technology. So this is where you will find that algorithms will have a relevant role to play in the time to come. The other interesting thing to note through algorithmic entertainment is the emergence of hyper-personalization. Now, if you may recall, digital media is, the characteristics of digital media include interactivity, instantaneous transmission of information, interoperability where information can easily convert from one network node to another, and lastly personalization. By personalization, I want to emphasize how the content can be packaged in a manner where it is suiting the individual needs. Now, with the coming of algorithmic form of information engagement, what we see is that data is getting hyper personalized, in the sense that whatever mass media form of content that you are consuming digitally can be very effectively repackaged, retuned to suit the individual needs. So you are basically consuming mass media but in a way more personalized manner, or what scholars basically are arguing about is the concept of personal mass media. How mass media is getting personalized through the development in digital technologies. And this very kind of change has sociological impact too, because it is also determining the very nature of identity, the kind of discourses people would involve themselves in, their attention or their interest in the respective popular culture as well as regional aspirations. So whatever these factors which were earlier fixed or structurally driven are becoming a lot more fluid and flexible in the domain of digital media. Lastly but not the least is the whole argument about virality and fandom culture, where content, in terms of whether it would go viral or whether it will create a fandom base of virtual communities, that too to a greater extent is being determined through your algorithms across different digital media platforms. In the case of edutainment and infotainment, firstly there is a difference between the two. In the case of edutainment, what you will find is the fact, that it's basically oriented towards development of skills, but in a very unconventional manner, where the given user has some kind of entertainment based satisfaction. Infotainment is where the information is being provided to the given user for as in terms of news value, but in a very entertaining fashion. So edutainment might help in the case of skill development. Infotainment may be oriented more towards news based satisfaction or information based satisfaction, both in the long and the short term time period. What has been seen in the case of media and entertainment industry, especially in the case of India, is that edutainment, or rather education and entertainment, are going to be collectively the new emerging field in the given industry, because users are not just confined, they are not just focusing on getting access to wide varieties of education based content. They are also relying to a greater degree in terms of how well that content can be communicated to them in an unconventional manner, whereby there is some element of entertainment involved. For instance, gamification in the education can be one tactic that can be seen, that has been put into practice across different platforms, whether it is Udemy, Unacademy, Byju's, etc. etc. The other interesting thing to see in the case of edutainment and infotainment is the elements of storytelling, music and influencer contributions which are being used in terms of generating that kind of desired satisfaction amongst the larger population. If you look at the figure on the top left hand corner, you will see that the figures from 22 to 26 let's take 25 only, 26 is the prediction which they are trying to highlight. 22 to 25, you see that there's a massive jump in the stratum of the population comprising of children, comprising of teenagers and young adults. So this is a very, very promising figure indicating the fact that edutainment and infotainment in the time to come will have a very relevant role to play. The other interesting aspect that comes into the picture is the AI and the creative economy. Now, AI is, there are a lot of debates that are going around in regard to AI, both positive and negative. But the very interesting thing to note about the utilization of AI in the creative economy is to basically bridge the linguistic divide that exists in India. There is a dire need to have a way more responsive and a very adaptable form of technology which the AI is providing that can satisfy the cultural needs of a larger chunk of the population. As a result of which you will see that AI is being used quite extensively in the creative economy, not purely in terms of content creation, but also in terms of the designing, the composition, and kind of enhancing the different formats of media. Generative AI especially is expected to provide a net revenue of 671 billion by 2030. But at the same time, there are also some ethical concerns which do emerge with the greater reliance on AI in the creative economy. One such can be that of intellectual property and copyright, and the other is the reorganization of labor. How the existing labor can be effectively reorganized so that technology and productivity can go in hand with minimal compromise in terms of labor reorganization, right? In the case of the globalization to localization, what we see is that there is not a one-way kind of trend or shift that has happened post-globalization in the case of India. What we see is that there is a reverse trend which is also taking place in the form of localization, where local content is identifying the global values and reshaping itself to create its presence in a larger global market. For instance, if you look at Bigg Boss and Big Brother. Bigg Boss is the Indianized version of Big Brother. Shark Tank India is the Indianized version of Shark Tank America. So all these things are kind of reflecting at the fact that there is a kind of cultural intermingling that has been shaped through digital media technologies, through innovation in the field of technology, and how they are allowing different types of data sets to be consumed by a diverse set of population. If you look at some of the observations, particularly in the context of India, you will find that a lot of Indian content has basically adopted global storytelling structures to create formats that are compatible for the global markets, right? And at the same time, global companies are also kind of identifying the best possible local content which can be further utilized to create its global presence. In this very process, there is a geographical shift too. The focus is not purely on Bombay or Mumbai in terms of creation of media and entertainment based content. We have regional hubs such as Hyderabad, Chennai, Kochi and Kolkata, which are providing a very important role in terms of creation of content. Close to 50% of the media content is no longer being consumed in English and Hindi. They are exploring diverse set of vernacular languages which are now gaining popularity and momentum. The other interesting thing to note is the fact that Indian localized culture being commodified is multi-layered in nature, because it is catering to a diverse set of the population, and why it is catering to, I will also come to that reason. If you look at the whole phenomena of brain drain, the Indians who have moved across borders to international regions for job and better opportunities, they are also projecting bilingual identities. Now, bilingual identity meaning that he will not classify or identify himself as or herself as an American or a British. It will be an Indian American or an Indo-British and similar such categories. Now, that stratum of the larger population is also trying to look at the best possible content which is being made available in the global markets and is holding on to its local values. So, this is a very, very interesting observation that has been seen, especially in the case of the media and entertainment industry in the Indian media and entertainment industry, where local content is now also gaining momentum to reach across global boundaries. So, this is a very, very unique and a very interesting phenomenon. For instance, take the example of Kantara Chapter 1. Now, if you look at Kantara as a film format, Kantara will have very much similarity to your popular shows such as Game of Thrones, couple of shows which are on Netflix which are depicting the ancient and medieval time period, etc. But the reason why Kantara has basically been able to rattle the global box office, it generated a figure of 590 crores in 2025, is because of the fact that Kantara has been able to promote its local content across global boundaries, and that has been the very phenomenal thing to observe in terms of the manner in which the content is being consumed. The other interesting thing to note is the fact that recently Amazon Prime introduced its Prime Day, and close to 224 countries were consuming Indian language based content, which was a very unique thing to observe, because that indicates the fact that localization is definitely playing a very, very important role in impacting the manner in which content is being consumed, not just across India but across the globe. If you look at the whole dynamics of soft power and digital diplomacy, you will see the fact, you will find the interesting observations in terms that digital diplomacy is no longer bound to only one specific stakeholder, that is the government. It is also including citizens, media networks, global influencers, etc., in terms of building the perception or building the soft power to influence international opinion. Waves 2025 summit that happened, or the International Film Festival of India, its related events, they are very much prime examples which reflect soft power of India and their role in the larger space of digital diplomacy across, among different countries across the globe. Lastly, but to also highlight the fact that despite all these dynamic sort of engagements, there is also a need for media and information literacy. One, primarily for in terms of understanding how the platform is providing what degree of satisfaction, how it can be effectively utilized, and to what extent it can play a vital role in terms of the information satisfaction. The other is in terms of recognizing the right kind of cultural narratives and filtering out the cultural jargons that can create a friction in terms of interpretation and understanding. Media literacy is also essential in terms of understanding how the whole game of algorithms and personalization is basically taking shape, and how algorithms based mediatization is something which the users need to be aware of, so that they do not fall into becoming puppets of a respective platform or a media channel in terms of communicating or conveying a given message. Combating manipulation is a very, very important topic where media and information literacy will play a remarkable role, because as digital technologies are going to expand and develop, you will find that the scope for content based manipulation is also going to rise. So, and it has already been increasing at an exponential rate. 2020 lockdown was an eye opener in terms of how content manipulation or deep fakes were basically impacting our understanding about information. So that is where media and information literacy will play a remarkable role. And lastly, in terms of identifying the kind of data sets, whether they have the potential of influencing or being used in the domain of digital diplomacy, even there media and information literacy will play a very pivotal role in the long term time period. So all in all, what we see is that despite the dynamic nature of media and entertainment as an industry or as a subset of the larger digital ecosystem, they also need to be backed by a healthy safety net of media and information literacy, which can allow users to choose which is the best possible information combination for their respective satisfaction. So with that, I conclude with today's discussion. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for delivering a talk on media and entertainment landscape and the need for media and information literacy. And I would like to inform all our viewers that we have used some OTT platforms names and logos and some entertainment centric content names and logos during the presentation. We did not promote any of them. It's used purely for academic purposes. And now we have received a few questions from the viewers. Let's take them. So sir, you have talked about media literacy and you focused on entertainment part also. I want to understand that how can media literacy be promoted in diverse settings such as schools, communities and workplaces?
At school level, media literacy has been used as a part of the curriculum. Like if you look at, if you compare India with other global economies, especially in the educational sector, media literacy and information literacy, even at from a very primary stage of educational development, they are being used quite extensively to sensitize kids in terms of what is good and what is bad information.
Okay.
For instance, what we used to learn in terms when we were children in terms of moral values, what is right and what is wrong. Similarly, students who are studying across outside India, across different international regions, there they are being exposed to a greater extent to curriculums which are sensitizing them about what is right information and what is wrong information. So media literacy, even in the case of India, is at a school level is being encouraged, but definitely it will take some time for it to gradually take shape, because it's not a very explosive process. There are different kind of cultural requirements which have to be satisfied. So it's a gradual process and it will take time, but it will definitely fructify in the time to come.
Right.
The other interesting thing to note is that users, due to the existence of information deficiency, what do I mean by that is that they are consuming information but they do not find it to be very informative in nature, are also by themselves, it's a reverse cycle which is happening, are also exploring ways through which they can be media literate or information literate.
True.
So that they can identify the best possible combination of choosing the right information that can satisfy their informational needs, and also the kind of information which they can use to further enhance their existing social network. So the news value or the information value is where media literacy will play a very important role in terms of determining whether it is newsworthy or whether it has any kind of value associated to it which can be used for further exchange in the time to come.
So we need information, we need information that's valuable, that's worthy of consumption, but we also need entertainment at times. What role do you think social media platforms play in spreading misinformation or disinformation, and how they can be held responsible for the same?
See, misinformation and disinformation, again, if you look at the whole concept of virality or any kind of information which is classified as misinformation or whether it is manipulation, it's purely because of the fact that it is very volatile in nature. So with the higher levels of volatility, it has a greater scope to spread across a larger social networks, and at the same time influence people to different degrees by manipulating them emotionally.
Right.
But such type of content also has a limited shelf life. So suppose if you are producing a manipulated form of content, you will have to kind of provide more value addition in order to sustain it.
Yes.
Because it's bound to break after a point of time, right? So misinformation and not disinformation, but misinformation and manipulation are basically seen as tactics whereby, for instance, clickbaits. They are very effective tactics to draw attention of users for a brief period of time. But this is a very short-term strategy. From a long-term perspective, what you will see is that users themselves are kind of self-regulating and identifying that this is bad information, this is good information. We need to rely more on them because of we are having a good degree of trust on them. The pivotal role which media literacy will play is in terms of the frequency of bad information. Sometimes what happens is that any bad information, if it is being provided in frequency, can create a psychological effect. It's like a kind of a spiral type of reaction which it creates. So in that case, media literacy will play a very, very important role in terms of bringing people out from that rabbit hole.
Right.
And that will play a very phenomenal role.
And I think it's also very important to evaluate the information from credible sources in order to maintain our mental and emotional well-being.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we are falling victim to that, you know, there's a lot of troll going on, and of course we are also spreading a lot of hate unnecessarily. We are also falling prey to such menace, and others are also getting affected.
Yes, absolutely, that is there. Because one is that there is a kind of a psychological impact it has, which is generating the higher levels of emotional satisfaction. But that emotional satisfaction from a long-term time period is very superfluous. I mean, it is not superfluous. It is somewhat artificial.
That's right.
It's where you are not able to generate that necessary kind of satisfaction which is required.
Absolutely.
So that is there.
Yeah. So because now we do not have enough time left, I have to wrap up the session over here. But thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and contribution to the session. And my dear viewers, it was our day 1 where we talked about media and entertainment landscape and need for media and information literacy under the umbrella theme of our online training program, which is media literacy. With this, I'm wrapping up this first day training programs session over here. And let me give you quick updates regarding the textbooks, where they are available on Amazon, Flipkart and NCERT website for grade 4 and 7. And simultaneously, you can take a look at the schedule, what's all coming ahead. So in a short while from now, you can watch our session Sahyog, where the topic is going to be, let's talk about feelings, promoting the emotional awareness and of course the support which is much needed. With this, it's a wrap. This is me, Harpreet Kaur, taking leave of you. Namaskar.